Okay, I don't know what this side quest is gonna be like. So we get the free Mr. Fantastic pre-fights. Hey, Laser, how's it going? We have to deal with Unstoppable, but for the most part, we can kind of just deal with the regen. What does she do? That seems fine. Okay. Excuse me. Hey, Easy, how's it going? Now, hold on. I don't need to beat this with Saga Champs or anything, right? No, no, I don't. So I'm going to bring somebody for She-Hulk. I might swap him out for Shang-Chi next time. Then that's probably where I want to go. It's okay, TC. Thanks, Joy. I generally agree. Whee! The confetti is great. Hey, Matt. I actually am having a very good night. I'm hoping that we can manage for that to not feel like it goes away. But yes, I'm legitimately having a very good night. Good day. She doesn't need it though, Easy. She just doesn't. Oops, I actually thought I picked Nefaria. That's fine. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I blocked. That's Now that's a silly take a shot. Coming as somebody who has a rank 4 Spider Woman, there's no reason not to take her up. I completely agree with you. She, yeah, I guess if you throw the special one, then it's just with despair. But she doesn't stop it. She just has access to a lot of debuffs in a small window. I have no idea, Chris. Like, I'm sorry I can't help you more, but I'm assuming that that's a budget thing. Ah. There we go. Grr. There you go. That was my fault. No, she doesn't, Joy. She definitely does not. Because everything about Nick is immune to ability accuracy reduction. Like, I'm very confident that's not it. Yeah, Alberto sounds right. The severe thing is probably it. Yeah, it's definitely easier than last week. Ain't that the truth? You might be right, Chris. I honestly don't know. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to those, even in side quests where I am paying more attention, which is not most of them. Nice, easy. Yeah, that is kind of how Phase 4s go. Congrats on getting it done, though. I know that this is not going to be a popular response, Ashant, but I think the the biggest reason that people are not responding particularly well to Cass is because she is hard to use, both in terms of execution and in terms of understanding the way in which her kit fits together and what you can do with it. There's a lot of little complexities and nuance there. And I think a lot of people have not fully processed the degree to which she's difficult, especially the intellectual side of it. And so they kind of think that those nuances just aren't there, and they think that, well, the champion just doesn't do much. Everything is undertuned, it's hard to hold on to things, the damage isn't there. Like, I don't know, Kabam must have messed up again, because, you know, Kabam messes up all the time. I've seen some pretty fantastic results from her. We do target nodes a bit. They have to be stable enough targets to go after, which means they either need to come up like all the time, or it needs to be like something in Alliance War, right? Like I have targeted Alliance War a number of times. I said this when Photon came out. Her little Petrify passive is specifically aimed at Conflictor, right? I think that's a bit reductive, Joy. That was my fault. I probably would have done something to solve for MD at some point if I didn't have that idea, but I had that idea first. And so its primary purpose from a design standpoint was to answer things like Conflictor. That's weird. Why did that count twice? And what do you do? Power Shield, Langer. Cool. I'm leaving Patriot for another one because I want to get better at that. We should use our Mysterium. We'll do that in a second. Dark Phoenix and Gallon don't really benefit from Power Shield, nor does Vox, really. So I'll just do the boring thing and play around it with Scream. 1 second. Spending some Mysterium. Hey, Pablo, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, Absorbing Man was designed for Hazard Shift. And Kate was designed for Path 5, although she hit the mark a little too hard. Kushala Sig is also aimed at some Purify nodes for Cosmic specifically, that she wouldn't otherwise really have to hit. I tend to swing at nodes. I mean, Patriot exists because of nodes. Without, like, in a vacuum, Photon was solved on release. Patriot answers things, Patriot answers nodes where Photon tells Crossbones and Mantis and such no. Nico was intentionally built as a tricky defender, and the sum total of those, I think, are reflected in her rating of 4 pretty fairly. It's going to look a little different in a year where we've had several strong 3s, so it's a little bit difficult to compare. But yes, I think Nico definitely has her threats, especially when nodes come into play. That's not really true, Black Hole. I've seen quite a people specifically call out Nico on defense. Ouch. Nice. No, when I meant the boring thing, I mean I won't bring somebody who answers the power drain directly. I don't think that counts as boring. Okay, let me flip that question around on you, ICU. Do you think that buff-immune science champions have it too rough these days? Do you think they don't answer enough mystic threats? Do you think we were too mean to them? Or is it fine that Nico hits them because they have a zillion other targets and the other science champions need something to do? That is, I mean,
Okay. I'm not surprised that Nico's coming up today, given the other things on the horizon. But yes, that was.
we knew buff immunity hit a lot of things, right? And several times in the past, it had come up where it's like, okay, we've done a good job of making this Cosmic Defender interesting, but Claire still solves everything because Claire still solves everything all the time. Um, and when there's only one character with an effect, it is weirder to call out that effect as something that has a consequence or doesn't work or such and such, right? Um, and so like that was a choice that we made maybe a year and a half ago at this point. We were like, look, at some point, if we want to solve the buff immunity problem, if we want to stop being scared of Claire, we're going to have to put it on someone else. Because basically, we had two options. We increase the number of people with buff immunity and then do something about it, or we take Claire out back and bury her, a la Magic and Quake. And we preferred to do the former, right? To increase the number. And so we knew that that was going to result in a strong mystic, right? Because if something is strong enough that we're scared of it on the first mystic that has it, then it's going to be strong enough that we're going to be scared of it on the second. And so we knew Nico would come out strong. She was designed to be strong on purpose. But yes, that does mean that she will run into complications in the future because now that's a thing. Nice, Cashew. Glad to hear that. I don't follow you there, Joy. Halt is not counterclass. Whoops. That was my fault. Whoops. I've heard that a couple times now, and I don't buy it. And you cannot pretend that acid burn is counterclass when it only applies to cosmics. That's some next level mental gymnastics. Nope, that is incorrect, Addict. They do attempt to trigger it. And you know that because within the kits of characters with buff immunity, a lot of them, most of them, have abilities that trigger when immune to a buff. Cassie and Ant-Man gain Pym particles, if I remember correctly. I think that's the same trigger for both of them. Red Guardian gains extra durability. I think Titania doesn't, and I don't think Spider-Man 2099 does. But the other three I mentioned do. Spot inflicts a rupture, if I remember correctly. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but like that's your first clue that they do attempt to gain the buff. Because they have triggers for when the buff bounces off the immunity. But your second clue is how those characters interact with neutralize, right? Because if you are facing Rintra with a buff immune character and you dex, Rintra will gain his power gain because you failed to gain the dex. And I've mentioned this before, it's because the chance roll has to happen before the immunity can kick in, right? You have the chance to gain a buff has to succeed, then you try to gain the buff, then the game decides you're immune to it, right? It's the same thing with Nico. A buff tries to happen, then the game realizes they're immune to it, and that is the trigger for the punishment. With our current tech, I couldn't have even exempted that if I had wanted to. Because competitive game modes aren't the only game modes, Joy. And the competitive game mode where speed matters is not the only competitive game mode. Luke Cage is not buff immune, no. I don't think I said Luke. I don't know, maybe somebody else did. I should have gotten rooted. Would have been better. Rude. Okay. No, yeah. Haza answered it perfectly. There is nothing science specific about acid burn. It has nothing like it was used on a single science champion, but there's nothing that makes it the internal term we use is a sacred cow, which is not the most sensitive thing, I'll fully admit, so I kind of regret saying it out loud. But like you get the point across, right? Um it's not primary to science in any way. It's not important to the identity. It doesn't answer ability power. It's not a debuff. It doesn't answer regen. There's nothing about it that's inherently science. It just showed up on a science character first. And it showed up on a science character who had poison because they needed a way to apply like a super poison. Well, you know what other class has a lot of poison is Mystic. Not the only two, but that's where that comes from. Okay, I couldn't remember if Spidey actually paused debuff specifically on Dex or if it was on the immunity. Thank you, Alberto. It's been a while, but yes, another trigger. Good luck, Jay. My night's going pretty well. Yeah, there is a lot of Unstoppable and Cosmic, and there has been more lately. And I know part of that is my fault, but it still counts. Okay, then I didn't fully follow you, Addict, and that's my bad. But yeah, I think we're on the same page. Patriot buff is good. He didn't need any more. Okay, we'll switch over to Shang-Chi now. Aggro prowess, rich get richer fury. Okay, that's fine. Take care, Joy. Have a good one, man. Yeah, those are good examples, TC. We also, to give y'all another insight into that, we had also just expanded plasma, or like re-expanded plasma, right? Because plasma was originally built for tech as an alternative to incinerate and shock, because a lot of mutants were immune to one or the other. And pretty early on, like, it was used on Wiccan, but that was kind of a one-off. That wasn't something we were really working with. And since then, plasma had been pretty predominantly mutant, and it was basically only ever used to replace incinerate, right? And so it was a pretty mutant ability. And not long ago, we decided that, or sorry, a pretty tech ability, tech aimed at mutant. My bad. Um, have I really not changed Shang-Chi's stat focus? I've got the energy. No, that's stat focus. Don't give me that. Um, you owe me 4 energy. Or 2 or whatever. But we had recently expanded that and decided, okay, well, yes, plasma is primarily tech, but we are going to allow Count Nefaria to use it because he is a science champion that wants to use Incinerate, and one of his primary targets is Kindred, who is immune to Incinerate. And it would also matter for Mephisto and who else am I thinking of? I know there's other mystics with Incinerate immunity. Somebody shout them out. And so we're like, okay, then it makes sense for him to have the same replacement. Against mystics, he'll get plasma the same way that against mutants, some techs get plasma. That's cute, TC. And so with that as a backdrop, my pitch was that it was fair to do the same thing with Nico with poison. It's a lateral trade, the same way that Incinerate for plasma is an energy dot for an energy dot. Poison for acid burn is a direct dot for a direct dot. They have the same rider to them. And it does dodge immunity, but she only accesses it against Cosmic, and it requires the Cosmic to be immune, which is actually a downgrade from the straight replacement that Nefaria and a bunch of tech champions get, because as people have called out, it leaves room for characters like Bill and Null and Hercules, probably somebody else, but at least those three, to just take less poison damage and never trigger the acid burn in the first place. Thank you, Easy. Appreciate you. And so that's why she has acid burn. And it's not breaking the class wheel, it's very much reinforcing it, in my opinion. Yeah, Stealthy has aged disgustingly well. I don't think the field needs to be longer eternity. I understand where you're coming from. I've talked about this before. I think there is space in the kit for very subtle reinforcement, or very subtle ways to let High Evolutionary play with the expiry rate. Of the power detonation. I don't think the field needs to be longer at all. It's actually got a pretty good duration on it. The VFX were going crazy in that one. But I do agree with, like, I agree with your diagnosis of the problem, just not your solution. High Evolutionary's offensive loop does feel a bit too rigid. Caroline is excellent. I agree. But yeah, y'all get my Nefaria Nico point. Well, that hurt. There's a decent chance Centurion's coding would be significantly updated if we ever looked at him, yes. I think he was his designer's first champion. If not, he was his second, and that was years ago. There's stuff that we could update. Nico stat focus. I generally feel like that's kind of a reflection of how I use her in Alliance War, where everybody has block pen, and I normally need to pick using the stimulate for one specific fight. And so everywhere else, especially if I'm having trouble weaving heavies in reliably, your primary source of adrenaline might be blocking. You're definitely going to be getting some adrenaline from blocking. So I figure I might as well boost it because none of the damage related stat focuses are all that important for her. And out of the defensive ones, there are a number of very arguable choices. But I think the adrenaline one is a defensive choice that is also an offensive choice and just works uniquely well with her kit. I haven't done the testing on it, so I'm not going to argue that it's like the way to go. But I found it works out well, and I like it on her. Nah. I'm not agreeing with your takes today. No. Ouch. Jen. I was hoping that would kill, but that's fine. Agreed, TC. Really good first round. Forgot about the stun. Oh, should have switched to incinerates. Exactly, Haza. It's boring if all trigger volumes are in the same place. That depends, Eli. How chill is the community gonna be about the rework? Reworking somebody like Black Panther is pretty chill. Wasn't a whole lot in the kit. There were some really good ideas there, but they hadn't quite panned out. There was plenty of blue sky space I could take it into, to take the good ideas and do something new with them in an almost entirely additive way. That's easy. Magic, Quake, Mephisto, Jubilee, Rogue, Psylocke, Dr. Octopus. Like, reworking anyone who has fans or anyone who does weird cross-class things that probably need to be changed, not fun. Would rather build a new champion any day, all day. Because if I have to undo my own mistakes, the community will never know. If I have to undo somebody else's mistakes, the community will probably tell me that I didn't understand the champion and I slapped a bunch of people in the face or something. Hulkling and CGR are very strong, yeah. Take care, Addict. Overpowered is a pretty subjective term that people like to pretend has an objective answer, and they also like to pretend that that answer is a fixed point that does not change over time, and they like to tell us that we're being inconsistent because we understand that the meta has moved. So I don't really like using the word, if that makes any sense. I realize I said a lot of words quickly. I saw Jay. That's not the kind of question I answered. Iron Patriot would unironically be pretty safe to update. Not a lot to do with those old animations, but the kit would be easy enough to update. Who was it that asked about the side quest shards? Scroll back. Chris? Yeah, I think it was Chris. I feel like I've got a round number, so maybe you did miss some somewhere? I don't know. Nice, Elijah. Okay. That didn't take too long. Maybe I'll play some Incursions. I guess it just rolled over. There's some cool stuff in Jubilee, but bluntly, she's just a little bit messy. If you're not one of her limited number of super fans, she probably has at least 3 abilities that you didn't know she had. And none of them feel particularly useful, and that's not a great spot to be in, but it also means that we can't make all of them feel useful, and whenever she eventually gets updated, she's probably going to lose named abilities. And, you know, for no particular reason, I just have this inkling that the community might object to a character losing abilities they were barely using. Most of the ones left Bryce. I'll answer that way first. I have many thoughts about Incursions. I condensed about a half hour's worth of them into a recent members-only video. Shameless plug. But there's some cool stuff in the mode, and for now, it's relatively chill. Especially if you don't care about getting all the way through. Yeah, I like Jubilee in the cartoons. The character is neat. I also like Jubilee in the Exterminators comic, for those of you who know it. That one's fun. Also has Dazzler and Laura. Yes, Sinister was considered a rework. Whoops. No, I hadn't yet. I'll have to check out Hades at some point. I had trouble with the original Hades because it gives me motion sickness, and it makes it difficult to really get into a game where you have to make precision inputs when you're starting to get motion sickness. But another roguelike that came out recently is Deep Rock Survivor. It's been in early access for a while, and I think version 1.0 finally released. That's a cool game. Highly recommend. I have not, Jay. I'm not super into the zombies genre, I'll be perfectly honest, so I don't know that I will. I still have some other Marvel stuff to catch up on. But no shade to it. Not yet, Ryan. Oops. That's what happens when you click and haven't looked yet. That said, they're getting better than most. Yeah, I know Hades is good because I've liked the roughly 5 hours I've put into it. But the first time I tried to play Hades was during one of my marathon streams for Extra Life, and the motion sickness was so bad that I literally had to lie down in the dark for 15 minutes while the stream was running with the get back soon screen. It was really bad. There's some overlap, Elijah. I don't know that I would say it that way, but but there's definitely some overlap. Solvark's Awakening isn't necessary, but it does give them some very nice anti-unblockable protection. God, it's funny. Maybe EK, but like I was doing decently at it. It was just making me nauseous as I went. Kind of a different problem. I appreciate the suggestion. They really want me to use the Deathless Champions, huh? Nah, I've been on record for that. Absorbing Man isn't too strong to be a 7-star. He's just strong enough that we're gonna be intentional with how we release him, if that makes sense. Kabam does do all hands, yes. We have a Monday morning sync across the design team. I guess it's aside across the team in general, because the engineers and stuff are also in there. And we do, that's, yeah, every Monday. And then we also have periodic all hands. And every month we do like a Friday night live thing, which is similar to an all hands, but more hype focused and with silly jokes. It's a good time. All I'll say on it, Easy, is that that would probably be easier if the community didn't resist every other form of monetization. Okay, that's fine. Don't really want to fight Rhino if I don't have to. That's probably fine. I also don't really need to heal, so we might as well go over here. Spider-Gwen is one of those that's difficult because she is too slow and too limited and finicky to really be useful in most of the game right now. So she could easily qualify for a buff. But she also has good uptime on one of the most busted abilities in the entire game. And that puts her firmly in the difficult to buff category. Everybody's favorite. It's impossible to know that counterfactual, Matt. Is all I'll say publicly. Hopefully people get to do it more over the next week or so, Leroy, but I agree with you. I don't think there's any link there, no, Eternity. Okay. That boss is actually annoying. Yeah, I'll go this way. Deal. No, it's okay. I just... Yeah. I understand Elijah, and I have a little bit of pity, but does that strike you as a particularly healthy relationship? Oh, Pain Link is so annoying, Black Hole. And really, really dangerous. If we had debuted it on a more on a more dangerous defender, it would probably be one of the most hated um, abilities in the entire game. Ooh, noted, Leroy. I will keep that in mind. The Incursions version of Fisticuffs not clearing your on-start buffs is so amazing. The person who suggested this should get a raise. Busted is kind of interesting. It's just also very specific. That'd be an interesting one. No, I know, like Elijah, and that's fine. I'm not upset. Whittle down and sadist on Craven is rude. It's fine. We'll just hit him until he dies. Not bad for a 60% damage reduction, huh? It's a weird typo. Oh, I wish that was how that logic went easy. I need to stop myself. Florida humidity and swipe to text is not a good combo. I have been there, my friend. I could see Busted working again. It's just not particularly likely. That makes sense. That's all fine. Well, Tyranny works pretty damn well on a villain. Let's do that. Oh, I know. Most Elsa fans, in my opinion, and in my experience, would love that change. The issue is the people who think that they're really clever for exploiting it on defense. Yeah, it was my fault. I clocked the immunity a bit late. No, it's technically doing exactly what it says it does, TC. Yeah, exactly, Elijah. Whoa! I mean, Elsa has the blood gem, so in lore it makes a certain amount of sense for her to have some kind of ability there. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the fact that like mutants don't trigger it. It's a cool little ability that I would have zero concerns with if not for the existence of the double edge mastery. That sounds annoying. Also sounds okay though. That sounds much, much easier though. Eh, that doesn't lock it in, Elijah. It's not at the top of our list, but maybe someday. I've tried to get it fixed before. Should I have really insisted on parrying that when I've never done that before? Probably not. See, like, I'm having fun right now, but this is also reminding me why I pushed so hard for us to shorten incursions to 15 zones for the saga. Because the idea that I'm, like, not even a third of the way done is just so silly. Ugh.
I'm pretty sure we have members of our community who wouldn't be quiet even if the game wasn't running.
Absolutely no one. Hey, remember when Kabam made that decision I didn't disagree with? Or I didn't agree with? I think it's a cool victory screen, but I get what you mean. I really like my next champion's victory screen. I know that probably feels like a mean tease, but I'm excited and I can't talk about them just yet. Such a nuke. Well, of course easy, because shards didn't exist back then. In the dark days. In the before times. I imagine it was, Elijah. Just when this run was starting to get boring. That'll help. Fine. 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 Alright, somebody put $1 in the jar. Yeah, the side quest didn't take that long. Cassie, if you don't mind. Tanky little bug. I'm glad people are liking the show. People liking Marvel stuff is generally good for us. I'm not really a zombies person, so I'm not in a rush to watch it, but glad to hear that it sounds good. Should he use the cleanse? Special one gets no healing. There was for Shocker, yeah. Because I remember a bunch of people taking him down and then taking him right back up. Fair enough, Aiden. Shockers was not because of rebalancing. It wasn't even because of the glancing fix. Oops. Shockers was because the glancing fix went out ahead of a sale in an effort to be nice to players, but that meant that it went out ahead of a patch note and was thus a vicious stealth nerf because we are only ever motivated by greed and malice. It is known. Okay, before I get too tired, speaking of Marvel tie-ins, I think I'm gonna go ahead and close out of the stream. I may or may not finish this run. The rewards have aged pretty poorly. But I'm gonna play some Spider-Man Magic. Yeah, Craven and Zemo were before the Shocker thing, if I remember correctly. Oh, you know what? Speaking of, hold on. Is he tactic? I feel like he's probably not. No. That's okay. I've been talking about this for a while anyway. Nice. That was a prestige boost. Also, I guess I'm finally in a place where I might have some 7-star stones to spend. Let's do this. And this. And then how much do I have? Cool. So I've got another rank 4 banked pretty much, but let's go open those stones. This is probably a more important use. Start there. I'd say they're probably too generous for now, Elijah. Okay, we're up to 60%. Cool, I'll take that. Ooh, before I forget, let's finally fix his stat focus. It's been held over ever since that invade meta. Cool, cool. What does that bring me to? 21. With another banked, that's coming along pretty well. Cool. Oh yeah, I do still need to finish up that event to get the extra rebirth crystals. That would be neat. But thank you, everybody. This was a nice chill one, which is what I was hoping for. I generally trust y'all. Proved me right again today. We want to get into it later. We can. I don't know, maybe Friday or something. But until then, take care, everybody.